Hello. There we go. Welcome. Good morning. We're late. Sorry. Today I want to talk about log cabin blocks because I have been working on them.
And I love log cabin blocks.
And as I work on them, they're so satisfying. They really are.
Satisfying.
So I've been working on this quilt. This is Sweet Escape 2 by Camille
Ross
Kelly. And this is for her upcoming fabric line Shoreline, which looks an awful lot like Nantucket. And I complain about that, except that Nantucket blew out of here
pretty. It
in about 35 seconds. And so if you missed out on Nantucket, this is your next chance. I think it's coming next month. I believe it's March, something like that. And next month is tomorrow. So that's why I have to get the sample, then it became next on my list. Anyway, so this is Sweet Escape 2. She wrote this pattern, and what I love about this, and I hope you guys can see it, is that she takes the log cabin blocks and she makes a secondary design with the stars. And I love secondary designs in quilt blocks because it's just fun. It adds an interest to the quilt. Like, log cabins are fun. And one of the fun things about log cabins is that you can make so many secondary
you can arrange them all kinds of different ways. Well, it's like I've been working on that harvest star at home, and I finally put some of the blocks on my wall, and the corners on them create secondary designs. And I've been so knee-deep into making the blocks that I'd forgotten about what that design was.
That does that.
So it was a fun little, yay, when I put it up on the design wall.
Yeah. Anyway, so this has been fun, but I wanted to tell you some things that I've been thinking about a lot as I've been chain piecing. I have to make 64 blocks, and I think I've made
at least
28.
Okay.
Finished, and then I'm halfway through some others at home. I'm making them in groups of 6 or 8 at a time because I can't chain piece one. That's not productive enough for me.
No.
But 54 would make me lose my mind.
Right.
I would be too bored. Right. Because the ADD is strong with me. Anyway, okay. So your log cabin starts out with one fabric. This is actually the center fabric right here. And then we build. So they're really fun, and they can be small, they can be big, and you can use whatever width strips you want. There's a billion log cabin patterns out there. And with a log cabin, there's a lot of foundation paper piecing.
Yes.
For log cabins too, because people get really you want it perfect.
Okay, and
if it's really narrow,
I dare say it's easy to mess up. But it's also easy to get right.
Yeah.
I don't want
it's easy to mess up.
I don't want to scare you away from them by saying it's really easy to screw this up. But it's really easy to screw this up.
If you pay attention to one specific thing, you'll get it
and
right.
That's why the foundation papers are awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But we're making this one without the foundation papers, and it's going to work great. There are some tricks, little tips that might help you.
So we're going to talk about
not struggle
right now. The first one is, where's your 1/4 inch seam? Let's get this right. And once you get it right, you're going to make it scant. By scant, I mean, we're going to say this for the millionth time.
Move over a thread or two. That's it.
The tiny hair width of a thread.
That's if you look really close at your fabric, you can see how many threads that you can kind of see the different threads in the weave. Move over one. And the reason I'm saying move over a thread or so is by scant we mean the easiest little bit. Okay, sometimes when I'm teaching and I tell people we're going to do a scant seam, all of a sudden it's 1/8 of an inch.
And that's super duper crazy scant.
That's no bueno. So we want to move over a thread or two. And that's about it.
And the reason for that is because we are going to, I press open. You guys know that. Okay.
Let's press
my favorite thing in the world is to press open because then my 1/4 inch is totally accurate and it's fabulous. Log cabins want to be pressed out.
They want to be pressed
out all the way around. And then the backs of them are so pretty.
They're so pretty.
The back of the block is as pretty as the front of the block. And that's one of the things I loved about it. The only thing I've pressed open on this is that very first little seam. Right? And other than that, you press out. And because we're going to press out, that's why we're doing scant. We're going to press to...
Because we have to go up and over.
And you're going to add that bulk that comes with
going up and over.
Up and over. And so that's where we're going, that one thread with scant. And what you're going to find out as you build this block is how good you're doing.
Right.
Because these pieces, if you've cut accurately, are all cut exactly where they should be. And when I sew these two together, they should be exactly
The
this
same
long.
as those.
And what I'm going to find out is maybe they're not exactly. So I'm going to add these two, and if this one's hanging over a little bit, then I'm going to lay this piece on, and I'm going to butt it up to these two ends. Not this end, these two ends.
So what we want to do
Because
is
that keeps me accurate.
we want to trust the piece that we've cut
Not the one I've
over
sewn.
the piece that's been sewn, because the one that has only been cut should be more accurate than the one that has multiple seams involved in making it.
So we're always going to line up this outside piece, and even if we're here, I'm going to line up this piece with these two edges, not this one. So if this one's sticking out a little bit further, I'm going to line it up here. If this one's closer in, I'm going to line it up here.
If you find that your presser foot is kind of dragging that upper fabric along, okay, I want you to pin it a couple places. Because we do not want pieces hanging off over the edge.
Yeah, they should fit
right
just
exactly.
right. The other thing I do to make that easier, you guys, is starch. Let me just start there, okay?
Right.
There's a couple starch options I love. I use a lot of Best Press, and I also use a lot of the Magic Quilter spray.
The Magic Quilter spray can be built up
It's
really
a true
nicely.
starch. Best Press is not a true starch. It's a starch alternative, which is also great. They both work really well. And what I will tell you is this fabric's kind of not super stiff, but it's definitely not as loose as it came.
Than it was.
It makes for, with narrow strips, you guys, narrow strips of fabric can get really stretchy. So starch is
absolutely
a big helper. Seriously, this was all done out of fat quarters, the colored pieces on this. And I only starch when I'm pressing before I cut my fabric.
Right.
And I tell you, I think some of these I starched both sides because
you know what you're cutting.
I knew what I was cutting, and I knew I needed it to be starched. And these were out of fat quarters, so I couldn't necessarily change the direction, especially with the stripes.
Right.
But look at these stripes, guys. Aren't they cute? And the blocky. I love it. With these ones that came cut out of yardage, the patterns will pretty much always tell you to cut 16,000 with the fabric strips. And first of all, I'm lazy. And second, I hate that. And that is no offense to the pattern writer whatsoever, okay? She's great. I love her.
She writes really good patterns.
But I prefer to cut length of fabric pieces. Because this is with the fabric. Okay, there's going to be some stretch here.
Length of fabric.
This is length of fabric. There's like no stretch almost. And narrow strips of fabric stretch. And even starch, they're going to stretch a little bit.
Right.
And so
anytime we can cut length of fabric, if we're going to do narrow sashing strips or block strips, that's the way to go.
So I do it on all my sashing.
All my sashing. If it's like, okay, we're going to cut a whole bunch of 2 by 12 and a half. So I'm like, great.
12 and a half inch
12 and a half inch with the fabric.
And so that's the thing here is I looked at all the lengths. I looked at how many I needed. And, it would say cut 15 1.5 inch strips and then subcut it to this. And I would say, well, actually, if I cut 3 10.5 inch strips,
if I cut it 9.5 inch with the fabric,
what I need out of it.
Subcut 1.5 inch strips.
And I do the math that way. If you don't know how to do that math, I assume 42 inches worth of usable fabric. I needed 1.5 inch pieces. 42 divided by 1.5 was, I forget, 20-ish, 16. And so I knew I could get 16 out of each of them. I need 64, so I need 3 of that cut. And if you really need help with that math, give me a call. I don't think it's terribly tricky, but I probably ran through it too fast. But that's my other main trick for stuff like this, you guys, is when you can possibly do it, cut it length of fabric instead of width of fabric.
And where the background is length, where the background's length of fabric, it's really forgiving that the other pieces are width of fabric. Because at least one of those sides is not going to stretch. And, okay, real quick, in case I want to be clear, width of fabric means selvage to selvage. Yep.
Okay, it's the width that the fabric runs in on the bolt.
Yep.
So the fold, selvage to selvage, that's with the fabric. Length of fabric is
a long,
big, huge, long piece that runs.
So we have on the bolt, I have 15 yards length of fabric,
and I have 44 inches-ish width of fabric. So that's the difference.
Yeah, so we're in selfie mode. The flags are backwards. It's just what it is.
It's just so that I can see what I'm doing right now.
Right.
The flags aren't really backwards.
Yeah.
IRL. Right. I'll send you guys a real picture of this quilt. My flags aren't backwards. I promise I did it right. But self-remote does weird things. And I hung this quilt up yesterday for something, and I didn't take it down. Anyway, it's Old Glory.
Yes.
From
Layla
Layla
Boutique.
Boutique. I have been doing strip piecing like crazy, you guys, lately. I
tell you,
this guy,
we get in these,
and I'm cutting all of these strips. I mean, and these were even narrower strips. I think they were 1 1/4. So, and I'm gonna tell you, I did the same thing on even when cutting the fat quarters. I cut most of the fat quarters length of fabric for these, and I cut all of my stashing pieces length of fabric, every single one,
right?
Because
it's narrow pieces.
The only thing that was with the fabric on these was these big long ones, and because I had everything else accurate, it was fine. But
yep.
I did the exact same thing here, okay? Because of the exact same issue, narrow strip stretch. So starch, length of fabric whenever you can, and check on your seam. Same thing here. I pressed to the dark side. I never do this, but I pressed to the dark side. And so I made sure I was using the same scantish seam that I'm using on these blocks.
And you're going to find out real quick if your seam allowance is accurate or not. If it's accurate, the next piece is going to fit.
It's going to match.
If the next piece is a little bit too small, what that's telling us is that your seam allowance was too scant. If the next piece is a little too small, your seam was too big. If your next piece is a little bit too small, your seam was too scant. So that's how we want to adjust it.
And if in the end, if you're still lining up with the cut piece, you're going to end up with the right size block.
Yep, that's what we're going for.
And they're so pretty. And I'm going to show you the rest of this collection since this is only order. So this collection's coming soon. I made this table runner the other day last couple weeks ago, out of a charm pack from it.
It's cute.
It's super cute. So it's the blues and the greens and the whites, and it's going to be pretty. And I'm really
I just threw my
blocks on the ground. We're excited for it to come, and it should be here sometime. I want to say sometime in March.
I want to say it's March. In March we have this one and Flower Girl and Albion. Albion's from Riley Blake. There's some really pretty spring fabric on its way to us.
Yes, very, very pretty.
And
I've been sewing with a lot of very happy springy fabric lately, and which is fun because it's freaking freezing and windy.
Well, it's not technically that cold, but the weather report did say to watch out for flying trampolines.
The wind.
So
anyway, all good. But I hope that helps as you work on your
any kind of strip piecing.
I will try and post a little short video of putting together one of these blocks when I get home today, because that's my plan for this afternoon, is to keep log cabining it, because I'm avoiding assembling another quilt. Which one? The summer bunting one. My blocks are all made. Well, of course. They take like 2 seconds. I know. They're made. I just need to assemble it. The fabric's in the store. And I should probably finish it before I finish this one. Probably. Because the fabric's in the store.
That's okay. Reward yourself. You know. Yeah. That's what I'm doing. I really want to start on another one.
And then I need to finish Lou. This close to done with my sample Lou quilts. It's really for those of you guys doing the block a month. And I just want to show it to everyone, but I can't. It's not allowed. Yep. So I have to just happily keep it a secret and show it to the couple people who are allowed to see it.
It's fun though. You guys are going to love it.
And if you're not participating in this block of the month, give me about 3 months and I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. Yep. But it was fun. It's been fun. Anyway, thanks guys. We're going to get back to all of our other work. But stay tuned for this one. It's going to be in the shop, and it's going to be stunning. I have had so much fun work. I've been doing these late at night, and I usually get bored making the same block over and over again. I'm not bored of these. Like, they're so fun to watch them grow. And
log cabins.
I don't know what it is. They're just super satisfying. So
I'm with you.
It's fun. Anyway, we'll see you later.
Bye, guys. Don't blow away.
Don't blow away.